to my channel for this incredibly innovative, new, unheard of video. A book haul. I have a pile of books, I also have some ebooks, I've bought some, I've been sent some, and I thought it was about time I shared them with you before the stack got any taller. So I'm going to start with the books I bought myself recently. I confess I have treated myself a little bit, like my self-control over buying books the past couple of weeks has been pretty low. So I know for a fact there is actually 2 more books in the post to me at the moment, but I'll focus on the ones that are already here, of which there are 5. So I'm just starting with what's on the top of my stack here. I picked up a copy of Dread Nation by Justina Ireland, and this is the only one of this pile that I've actually started. I'm past halfway in this, probably sort of 3/4 of the way in at this point, and really enjoying it. I started reading it during the Queer Lit Readathon because, and I hadn't realised this until recently and I'd seen some more reviews for this book and the sequel, our protagonist in this story is bisexual, and there is also asexual / aromantic representation within the book, which is fantastic. And it's set in an alternative historical version of America, where after the end of slavery there is this uprising of the Walking Dead zombies, and society is reorganised in order to defend itself against these zombies, which means that Black and Native American children are sent to training schools in order to train as zombie fighters, and this is based in sort of American history, obviously not with real zombies, but in American history where like Black and Native American children were taken away from their homes and sent to schools in order to be what white society considered civilized. And in that respect it may be an alternative history, but it deals with very real issues. It has also got the most endearing, sharp, clever protagonist. I love the protagonist in this story. I love following her adventures, and I'm probably going to be picking up the sequel once I'm finished book 1. So that was the first book I treated myself to. On the topic of LGBTQ+ books though, I also picked up Sarah Waters' Affinity. This is, to my surprise, a Sarah Waters book under 400 pages. Who knew those existed? Not me. And I am very underread when it comes to Sarah Waters, but she writes fantastic historical stories about queer women, and this one is on the sort of like creepy, unsettling horror side of things when it comes to historical literature, and that has been exactly what I'm in the mood for at the moment. I'm all about the horror and the creepy books and the unnerving books at the moment, which means that this was exactly what I wanted. It's set in a women's prison in Victorian London, and it seems as though there may be some sort of like paranormal haunting in this prison, and I don't know much more about it than that, and the fact that there is queer representation, so I'm just really excited. The next 2 books I'll also mention actually are both books I bought on The Hive. The Hive is a website, I mentioned this in my last reading vlog I think, but The Hive is an online bookstore where you can order books like you would do with any online bookstore, but when you go to checkout and once you've purchased your book, you can pick a independent bookshop in the UK, I'm not sure if it goes beyond the UK, but certainly in the UK, to give commission to, so they get a percentage of the sale that The Hive makes through you, and that goes to the independent bookshop, which I think is particularly useful just now because we don't have as much access to bookshops, and not all independent bookshops are selling books online, but also it might be something that's of interest to you in the future if you live more rurally and just don't have access to independent bookshops you love. And I bought both these books on there. I sent my commission for this book to Transreal, which is in Edinburgh, and I sent my commission for this book to Housemans, which is in London. Now the first one is Gin Patrol on the Purple Line. This is shortlisted. I believe it's shortlisted, it was definitely longlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction this year, and I'm a big fan of the Women's Prize for Fiction. I often find gems there that I wouldn't necessarily have picked up otherwise or necessarily heard of otherwise, and I really enjoy the selection every year. So this was the one that definitely appealed to me the most out of the ones I hadn't already read, and it's a crime novel set in India, but the protagonist is a 9-year-old boy, so this has a child narrator. Essentially our young protagonist is obsessed with crime shows. He believes that he could solve a crime like all the police detectives he admires on television, and then a little boy from his school goes missing, so he sets about trying to solve that crime. But it's not a children's book by any means, it is most certainly an adult book, and I'm really excited to see where that all goes, and to have a child narrator narrate what is basically an adult crime story, so that should be really interesting. I then also picked up, interestingly enough, another crime novel with child protagonists, but this one is a middle grade book. So this is High Rise Mystery by Sharna Jackson, and this is published by Knights of, who are an independent, inclusive publishing house that I also have a book that was sent for review from to show you, but I have been interested in checking out more of what they published recently, and this is one I'd heard a lot of fantastic things about. It is, as I mentioned, a middle grade. It's also like a crime mystery novel, but you know, I imagine a lot less dark and high stakes than this book is going to be. But essentially this is about child protagonists, Nick and Norva, who live on this high-rise block when a dead body is discovered, and they end up embroiled in solving that mystery. So I don't know much else about it except that the reviews are fantastic. I love middle grade and I love a mystery, so I'm excited to check it out. Then lastly, for books I bought myself in this video, I have Witches of Ash and Ruin by E. Latimer. I lie, I didn't buy this myself, my mum bought this for me. I literally just remembered she was ordering something for herself and was like, let me treat you to a book. So I take it back, I didn't order this for myself, but I did pick it, and this is a book I have wanted to read for ages. I kept putting off buying it thinking, I'll wait for the paperback, I'll be good, I'll resist. But then when my mum offered to buy me a book, I was like, that's the book I want. This is a book that's been top of my wish list for such a long time. I want that book. And I'm so excited to read it. I meant to start it during Queer Lit Readathon, but just didn't get as much reading done as I planned, so I'll be starting this in the next week or so. And I've also heard Ashley over at Frolic Through Fiction rave about it, so I'm all the more excited to have heard good reviews. But the concept is, we have Dana, who is raised in a small Irish town. She's 17 and she's been training to be a witch. She also has OCD, and there is LGBTQ+ rep in this book. It is a queer book, like I mentioned. I was going to read it during the Queer Lit Readathon, so all those things are so up my alley. I am sorry, my phone just beeped. That's that turned on silent now, but this is, I mean, I think like you've already gathered, sort of contemporary YA fantasy, but with representation that I really like to see in books, which includes queer and OCD rep, and that's something I relate to, so I'm really keen to read about. And like I said, again, I've just heard people I respect rave about this book, so I'm really, really excited to read it. Also, there's this triquetra on the back here which says the gods are hunting, an ancient will wake, the witches are gathering. So it's not just witch magic, it's also gods and goddesses, and that sounds brilliant. Well, since that book was actually a gift from my mum, let's just traverse into the realm of more gifts, because my wonderful, beautiful friend Tasman gifted me 3 books. She sent these to me from my wish list completely out of the blue. I was not expecting it, but it made me very emotional because I am just so excited about these, and Tasman and I have become such good friends recently. It's just like wonderful, like in these times, kind of the communities and friendships you can build online. So these are the books that Tasman gifted me. Let me show you what they are. We have Criers War by Nina Varela. This is a fantasy book, which I keep wondering if it has science fiction elements in it, but that's just like completely my own supposition based on very little, so don't take my word for it. But it's about a kingdom where these creatures called the Automi take over, and the humans become like second-class citizens to the Automi, who take over ruling the kingdom. And I guess it's the word Automi makes me wonder if they're sort of like automatic, like are they cyborgs or something like that. But again, just speculation. I'm sure if you googled you could find out immediately whether that was the case or not. And we have a protagonist who decides to infiltrate the Automi kingdom in order to overthrow them and murder their princess, but instead falls in love with their princess. So we have another female-female romance in a fantasy world, which are 2 of my favourite things in books, and I'm really excited about this one. We then have a book I'm so interested in, and it's Proserpina Midas by Mary Shelley. So this is 2 plays, I believe, by Mary Shelley, author of Frankenstein, and I've never read anything else by Mary Shelley other than Frankenstein. I've never really heard a lot of people talk about anything else by Mary Shelley other than Frankenstein, and I added this to my wish list maybe last year or whenever it was I read Frankenstein. That was maybe the year before, and realised that she had written other works as well, and these are 2 of her plays, but specifically these are based on Roman mythology. Well, their Roman myths are also Greek myths. That's kind of one of the sort of complicated features and facets of classical mythology, but the name Proserpine is the Roman name for Persephone. And if you don't know, actually, Frankenstein is also rooted in part in sort of classical mythology. It's called The Modern Prometheus. So I'm just really excited to read some more Mary Shelley because she is an incredible writer and historical figure that I would like to know more about. So thank you, Tasman, for that one. And then lastly, she sent me The Wicker Like by Mary Watson. This is a sequel to The Wren Hunt, which I read very, very recently and really enjoyed. It was another YA fantasy novel, not about witches in this instance, but about druids, but also set in Ireland. And it's a series, just having read book one, that I think so many people on BookTube would love, and it would love to see more people read because I feel like they'd get a lot of joy from it. But it follows two different clans of druids living in modern day Ireland who are enemies, and we have a bit of like a Romeo and Juliet situation, as well as secrets and lies that have been hidden from our protagonist, who's been raised in one of these druid communities and is sort of doesn't quite understand her people the way she thought she understood her people and her background, and there's a lot of drama come the end of book one, so I'm excited to see how it all pans out in book two. Plus this cover, I believe there's now a matching cover of this for book one, which I don't have, but these are stunning. Before I move on to some ebooks I do have two books that were sent to me for review. The first one was the one I mentioned, which is also from Nights Of, and that is A Kind of Spark by Elle McNichol. I, again, have been so excited about this. I'm pretty sure I included it in one of my anticipated releases of the year video. But this is a story with an autistic protagonist. She is a schoolgirl who decides to take part in a school project. She's doing like history research for a school project where she looks into the background of witch trials and witch hunts in her town or her city, and ends up campaigning for a memorial to be put up to these women who were murdered essentially during the witch trials. And I think that sounds so brilliant. I've heard incredible reviews of this from people I thoroughly trust, and Elle McNichol just seems like the nicest person on Twitter, so I'm really excited to finally have a copy of her book and read it myself. We then have a fantasy book that I wasn't sent by the publisher but came in my fairy loot box, which I was sent for free, and that is The Bone Crier's Moon by Catherine Purdy. As always with the fairy loot editions, these are just stunning. Like the jacket even has like extra art inside, and then there's these metallic green sprayed edges. It's just a work of art. But from what I understand, this is set in a fantasy world where there are these people called bone criers, but in order to become a bone crier you have to kill your true love, and we follow a female protagonist who's training to become a bone crier, which, like, conceptually to me, I'm just sitting here thinking, why would you train to be a bone crier if it means you have to kill your true love? But I'm sure there's a complex society that results in this and people participating, so I'm interested to find out, and that's pretty much all I know. But do not fear, the haul is not over, because there are still some ebooks. I have both ebooks I got for free and was sent for review, or well, downloaded for review off NetGalley. So let's jump straight in. I'm sorry, looking at my computer here just for reference, but the first ebook that I picked up recently was one I did download for free from Haymarket, who were running a promotion. They were basically giving this book away for free, and I've already reviewed it because I've already read it. It was in my May wrap up and my last reading vlog, so you probably already know what that is, and that's Who Do You Serve, Who Do You Protect? Which is a collection of essays by different contributors published by Haymarket, who are one of my favourite publishers, a go-to for non-fiction for me. And this collection is all about the justice system in the United States specifically. It's about police brutality, it's about incarceration, and the racism ingrained in all of those systems and in all of the violence experienced there. It also does touch on the US's influence in some other countries as well, so it's not exclusively set in the US, but it is about the US system and the US government and US violence, and it's incredible. And although it's not free anymore, I would highly encourage you to all pick up a copy, whether an e-copy or a physical copy, and give it a read. I think you will find it incredibly enlightening and educational, and really it's information that we should all be aware of, so I would encourage you to pick that one up. I then picked up Killing It Softly, which is a short story anthology from different short story writers, all in the horror genre. So this is all specifically as well horror written by women, and I picked up this collection specifically. I think it only comes in digital copies because it has Elijah Whiteley as one of the contributors, and I love Elijah Whiteley. I've read 2 or 3 of her books. She is a fantastic sort of literary, creepy horror writer. I just think she's brilliant, and like I said already in this video, I have been so in the mood for horror. Like, I really have been craving dark, creepy books, but I'm also quite particular about what I like and what kind of unsettling, creepy horror books I like. So I thought this might be a fun way to try lots of different authors. It already has one author in it I know I enjoy, so there may be comparisons made there between the writing styles, and it may introduce me to some other authors whose novels I can check out. So I'm just really intrigued to try this one. I then treated myself to Queen of the Conquered by Kacen Callender because it was only 99p on Kindle, which is always my excuse. I have so many 99p titles on my Kindle right now that I still need to read, but this one sounds brilliant. It's another fantasy novel, which is still my fave genre. This one is a Caribbean-inspired fantasy about Sigourney Rose, who's the last surviving member of her noble family, who were either massacred or enslaved during an invasion of her island when she was a child. And now that she is older, the king on her home island is hosting a sort of competition. He doesn't have any children, so he's trying to pick a new heir from the noble families, and she uses her magical abilities to travel to the island in order to compete, but it also turns out that there may be more against her than she initially anticipated, and danger around every corner. It just sounds really interesting. Love a strong female lead, love a fantasy novel, so I'm here for it. We then come to ebooks that I got for review off of NetGalley, which is a site, if you're not familiar, where if you review books online in sort of any format, you can request books from publishers as digital copies to review. So first up we have Ring Shout by P. Djeli Clark, and I've actually read 2 books by P. Djeli Clark in the past and loved them. He's a fantastic writer, big fan, so was so excited to see he had a new book coming out. This is another sort of alternative slash paranormalized history of the US, specifically in regards to the Ku Klux Klan, and in this story they are supernatural beings, so it's sort of a historical novel but with that supernatural twist. I don't know much else about it other than I love his writing. This sounds like a really interesting concept and I'm excited to read it. We then have 2 books from another one of my favourite publishers who are Verso, one non-fiction and one fiction. The non-fiction book is Feminist City by Leslie Kern, and this is a book that explores sort of contemporary city life and the construction of cities over time and how they can be sexist. The blurb says, from the geography of rape culture to the politics of snow removal, the city is an ongoing site of gendered struggle. Yet the city is perhaps also our best hope for shaping new social relations based around care and justice, which I think sounds like such a fascinating concept. I've been super excited for this book since I found out about it. It was another one that was on sort of anticipated releases list of mine, and I am a city girl through and through. I love cities for so many reasons, and I think this could be a really enlightening and also powerful book to read. Then lastly is that fiction book, which is Girls Against God by Jenny Haval. Now this is a translated book, and I've been meaning to read some Jenny Haval for a while. I really wanted to read Paradise Rot but never got around to picking a copy up, so I'm excited to read this one, particularly because it's a creepy literary horror novel, which, as we've established, is exactly what I'm in the mood for right now. It's set in Norway between the 1990s and the contemporary world, but to be honest, from the blurb, I couldn't even tell you exactly what it's about. It sounds super surreal, there's elements of magic in there, but also kind of explorations of modern culture, and I don't know what I'm getting myself in for, but like I said, I'm really intrigued by Jenny Haval. The genre is exactly what I'm feeling like at the moment, so those 2 things just felt like perfect timing to me. And that brings me to the end of this book haul, because obviously I needed more books, because books are my only friends right now and I am very grateful for their company. So I am keen to read all of these books that I haven't already, started / almost finished, and would love to hear from you if you've read any of them or are interested in reading any of them in the comments down below. But other than that, happy reading, and I'll see you all again next time. Bye guys!